There's a wonderful story about Elias Howe, who invented the sewing machine. And one of his challenges was deciding where to place the eye of the needle. And just when his funds were dwindling and he was running out of ideas, he had a very interesting dream. He dreamt that the ruler of a strange land had commissioned him to design a sewing machine, and because he failed, he was sentenced to death. And as he was walking to the executioner, he was escorted by guards holding spears, and the spears had a very conspicuous opening toward the tip. So he woke up in the morning and knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly where to pierce the sewing machine needle near the tip. And the rest, as they say, is history. So dreams are one way intuition reveals itself to us. What are some others? How does it get revealed to you? Meditation, prayer, guided visualization, hypnosis. There are all kinds of ways. Some people hear voices, don't they? Some people use substances. Well, they do. And some people use substances to keep from hearing the voices. So perhaps a better question is, how does the conscious, intelligent student of mental science access intuition? How do we do it? Well, all the great metaphysical teachers contend that intuition is universal mind within us. Further, they agree that it is ever available and that it is always awaiting our recognition of it. See, they have to keep reminding us our participation is required. We have to recognize it. Let's go back to Fillmore again and look at the rest of his definition of intuition. He says, when we trust spirit and look to it for understanding, a certain confidence in the invisible good develops. He's talking about faith, which he does a lot. He says, this faith awakens the divine knowing. Through the power of intuition, we have direct access to all knowledge and to the wisdom of God. Okay, again, somebody comes along after that and clarifies it even further. Of course, our own Ernest Holmes. Chapter 20 in the Science of Mind textbook, What the Mystics Have Taught. Is there a better chapter anywhere in any book? That is a fantastic chapter. And in it, he talks about the instinctive life within, which is God, of course. And he says that this is the thing, this is the power, this is the force that has brought us to the point of self-recognition. It is through God, through the divine, through our unity with it, that we have arrived at the point of knowing that we exist, that we are conscious, that we are endowed with reason and rationalism and instinct and intuition. We know ourselves because God has brought us to this point. It created us and brought us here. Now, this is the point at which we gain self-control. And the point going forward from which we must discover ourselves. And intuition plays a major role in that self-discovery. Now, our intuition, which Holmes says is nothing less than God in us, silently awaits our recognition and cooperation. So we have to believe that the universe is ready, willing, and able to manifest anything and everything we desire. We have to believe that those desires are divinely ordained. They are God-created. And that they have the means to materialize already. By virtue of our being aware of them, they already have everything necessary to their manifestation. Okay, this is where we return to our discussion of the law of fulfillment of instincts. I'm sorry, I just love to say that. There's something about it that gives me chills. The law of fulfillment of instincts. Okay, this is also where we segue to part 3, because in this case, Emma uses the terms instinct and impulse together, perhaps even interchangeably or synonymously. So I have another question. How many of you have heretofore thought of impulse as something fleeting or inconsequential? Okay. And I say heretofore because it is my intention to change your mind about that. So some of the impulses we have can be a little crazy, right? Well, I think I'll leave today and go buy a Bentley. Oh, no, a Rolls Royce. That's what I'll do. Or bungee jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Or run away to Tahiti. We think of impulse as that kind of crazy stuff that we're not actually going to do, okay? But according to Emma Curtis Hopkins, when we have an impulse or an instinct, it's a sign that points to truth. In fact, that impulse originated in truth because it couldn't originate anywhere else, could it? If there's truth and nothing else, everything we know comes from truth. There's no place else whence it could have come. So, the good we conceive of is not random. It may feel like an impulse to us, but it's not. It's not random, and it is a message from spirit within. It's the divine knowing itself through our personal individual knowing. So, not only are our impulses not random, they're not tangential, ever. In fact, they're always relevant, and they always point to the context which makes their manifestation not only possible, but probable. Okay, here's how Emma explains the law of fulfillment of instincts. The impulse to fly is a sign there is air to fly in. The impulse to walk is a sign there is ground to walk on. The impulse to swim is a sign there is water to swim in. The impulse or instinct to rely on something to make us well is a sign that there is something to make us well. The impulse or instinct to rely upon something to make us happy is a sign that there is something to make us happy. Impulse is a sign that there's something. What is that something? It's God, the good, as our substance and supply. So just as there is air to fly in, ground to walk on, water to swim in, the place and time and means to demonstrate all our impulses, everything we conceive of instinctively and intuitively, is already created. It's already there. At the level of reality, it already exists. It's waiting for our recognition of it, our discovery of it, our claiming of it. Now, we could look at Emma's list and say this is wonderful, but it's not exhaustive, is it? We can add to it. We can add whatever we want to it using her language, her affirmative language that makes us believe this is the truth. The impulse to love is a sign there is love to delight in. The impulse to be healthy is a sign there is health to thrive in. The impulse to be prosperous is a sign there is prosperity to luxuriate in. The impulse to be creative is a sign there is creativity to take pleasure in. And it goes on and on and on and on. Because the impulse to have, do, or be anything is a sign that it already exists at the level of reality. It is up to us to recognize this truth, to claim it, and to allow it to unfold in our experience. See, ultimately, for our purposes, instinct, intuition, and impulse are one thing. They're all the same thing for the metaphysician. They're divine ideas in the mind of God, which, when they enter into our individual mind, do so because they are ready to flow into our expression, in, as, through, and for us. For us. Every desire is a promise of its own fulfillment. Metaphysically, every desire is an activity of mind that propels us forward to spiritual achievement. And what do we know about spiritual achievement? That it always outpictures in our world as the good we believe is possible, right? That it always shows forth as the substance of our faith. That it always materializes when we rejoice in our source, which is God and only God. That's all there is. Now, as we rejoice in God within, we look within ourselves and we see the divine and only the divine. We know ourselves as spirit. We know each other as spirit. And we pay attention to the truth of ourselves. And we know that our instinct, our impulse, and our intuition are one and the same thing, that they are divinely ordained, that they are spirit fulfilled, that they are the truth of us, and the truth of their fulfillment is ours right now, and it is absolutely wonderful, and so are you, and so it is. Namaste.